Hi, I'm Jacob.
I'm Joey.
I'm Jesse.
I'm Bradley,
I'm Pedro.
And I'm Josephine.
and we're going to explain the parts of computer. An essential part of a computer is the processing units. The first processing unit is the CPU. The CPU operates to execute a sequence of stored information or instructions called a program. The CPU works by using basic logic and arithmetic. Binary, the combination of ones and zeros, or true or false, is the language a CPU reads. All CPUs vary in clock frequencies and cores, however they share the same basic logic gates. Logic gates are located within transistors of any processing unit, and many modern CPUs, like Intel's new Haswell architecture, has upwards of 1.5 billion transistors. Many CPUs have integrated graphics. Integrated graphics allows the computer to process display graphics when a GPU is absent. The next processing unit is the GPU. The GPU, designed initially to accelerate memory-intensive work of texture mapping or polygon rendering, i.e., 3D graphics. The first GPU appeared in arcade games in the 1970s, for random access memory was too expensive. While the CPU processes large amounts of data and information paralleled together, this is not efficient to display graphics. The GPU is a single channel or a single core processing unit which processes all information regarding what will be displayed on the screen. For example, all textures, graphics, or videos will be processed by the GPU. Advanced GPU technology is required to run many modern three-dimensional systems, such as video games or virtual reality headsets. The last processing unit that you might see in a computer is an APU. An APU is a processing unit with an architecture of both a CPU and a GPU. An APU is used mostly in game consoles like Xboxes and PlayStations. APUs are beneficial in compact systems.
RAM is a form of computer data storage. It stands for Random Access Memory. There are two main types of RAM, DRAM and SRAM. DRAM stands for Dynamic Random Access Memory. This creates a grid of bit lines and word lines which forms addresses that can be accessed. In order to get to access the information stored in this data, it has to check each word line in the allotted bit line. If the capacitor found in each word line and bit line is over 50% charged, it's a 1, and anything else is a 0. Some disadvantages is that it's slower because it has to check each address, but it is significantly cheaper due to its significant size reduction. And like all RAM, all memory stored on DRAM is lost right once power is turned off. SRAM stands for Static Random Access Memory. It uses 6 transistors to create a grid of access random points that don't need to be refreshed, which makes it significantly faster than DRAM. It takes more physical space, however, which makes it significantly more expensive.
The motherboard is one of the main parts of the computer that keeps the computer functioning. It connects the components of the computer together by having the computer communicate with each other, and it runs the computer properly. The main components that the motherboard connects is the CPU, the RAM, GPU, power supply, and storage. So in conclusion, the motherboard is like the queen bee in the hive, and without the queen bee, the whole hive falls apart.
The power supply is the part of the computer that transforms incoming AC current into usable DC current for the computer. Main AC is too much voltage for the delicate wiring to handle, so the power supply uses a series of transformers to change the current as it comes into the unit. The power supplies used in PCs today are called switching power supplies. On high-frequency switching mode power supplies, also known as SMPS, the input voltage has its frequency increased before going into the transformer in a range of kilohertz are typical values. With input voltage frequency increased, the transformer and the electrolytic capacitors can be very small. This is the kind of power supply used on the PC and several other types of electronic equipment, such as DVD players.
The
cooling components of a computer, like fans and the heat sink, keep the computer from overheating by moving hot air away from key components and pushing it out of the computer. Fans range in size and type, with larger fans making more noise. Airflow fans are the standard fans that come with most computers. They have larger gaps between fins and push a large quantity of air. A second type of fan is a static pressure fan, made to move air through objects like a radiator with focused flow. They have larger fins that overlap to make sure there is no backflow. Another type of cooling component is the heat sink, which sits on the motherboard and dissipates heat away from nearby objects. Airflow then moves the heat away and out of the computer.
Computers use many different types of storage in order to function properly. The first one is a hard drive, where all the permanent files are kept. These files include your operating system, which could be Windows or Mac, and that is the interface that you use. Or they could be program files or application files or files that you would like to save, such as documents that you refer to later. The way a hard drive works is it's a magnetic disk. The magnetic material in which this disk is made of has very specific sections on it. And a head with an actuator arm, like a little needle, goes around as this disk is spinning and writes zeros and ones onto the disk. A 0 is signified as being not magnetized, and a 1 is signified as being magnetized. And there are billions of these little sections on the disk. Out of these billions of sections, in this case zeros and ones, which are bits, strands of these bits make up the files that we refer to. The next kind of storage is flash or solid state drives. These could be your standard flash drive, or they could actually be flash drives within your computer. These are a lot less susceptible to harm because they have no moving parts. Instead of having a spinning disk, it's actually billions of cells with transistors. Transistors can hold either a 0 or 1, or an on or an off state. And just like in the hard drive, all these zeros and ones stranded together create files. Another type of storage in a computer is an optical type of storage. Usually this is something that we externally put into the computer in the form of a compact disc. And this uses lasers to write onto an optical surface with those zeros and ones. And the same method is taken in order to strand all those zeros and ones together to make files. Also, there are different temporary types of storage within the computer, and that includes RAM. But because RAM is covered in a different section of this video, I will keep it out. But just know that RAM is a temporary form of storage in which the computer does not always need to be able to go back and find it, but at the present it needs to keep a log of stuff that's going on.